Asher Blake, can you act like a normal person for once? He yanked off his wine-red tie and started wrapping it around my wrists, loop after loop. What's so great about being human? He smirked. I like being a dog. There was absolutely no mistaking his intentions. I panicked and tried to stop him. No, I'm live streaming right now. This can't happen here. But he just stretched his arm behind me, leaning closer until only half of his face was visible on camera. He coolly greeted my viewers. Sorry, everyone. Gonna borrow your precious streamer for a bit. If he can still move tomorrow, you might see him again. My face turned a whole shade redder. What do you mean if I can still move tomorrow? Asher Blake, shut the hell up and get off me! He ended the stream with a single tap. I couldn't believe what was happening. Whatever hits the headlines tomorrow is going to be explosive. The last time someone trended for coming out, it was Zayn. I even made fun of him for it. Yeah, karma doesn't wait around. Asher suddenly lifted one of my legs. I panicked. You're serious? His eyes narrowed, seductive and dangerous. Dead serious. Asher Blake, I swear, I'm counting to 3 and you better get the hell out. 3, 2. I never got to say 1. The only thing echoing through the night were broken sobs, mine, and an endless stream of curses I hurled at that damned dog, Asher Blake, using every foul word I'd ever picked up in my life. The next morning, I literally crawled out of bed on all fours. My phone buzzed. Eva Jiang was calling. Her voice immediately sounded suspicious. Bro, why does your voice sound so weird? I winced and gritted my teeth. Shut up. Just get home. Now. Nope, not coming back. I found true love again. You're going to be the death of me. Why are you so cranky this early in the morning? Did someone feed you gunpowder for breakfast? I clutched my hair in frustration. Don't even say that word to me. This is all your fault. Eva, if I could go back in time just 1 month, I swear I'd rather die than get involved in your mess. She must have been genuinely spooked, because she hung up immediately. When I tried to call her again, blocked. That little devil. I've heard of people screwing over their parents, but this is the first time I've met someone who screws over their own brother. 1 month ago, I'm getting married. I had just taken a sip of tea when I spat it out in pure disbelief. Eva Jiang, have you completely lost your mind? She was sitting way across the living room, nervously twisting her fingers together like a kid caught red-handed. She didn't even dare meet my eyes. From the day she was born, Eva had been a walking headache. I practically raised her. Played both dad and mom. And now she drops this on me? I sucked in a long breath, trying to appear calm. Emphasis on trying. Don't tell me, I said through clenched teeth. You're talking about that spoiled, good-for-nothing rich brat you met last month. Eva's head snapped up, her voice full of determination. He's not spoiled. He's actually really nice. You're just judging him without knowing anything. The way she rushed to defend him made my blood pressure skyrocket. I leaned forward and poked her forehead. Not gently. Eva Jiang, you're not even officially his yet, and you're already standing up for him. If I say you're hopeless, you'd still think I'm being dramatic. From what I'd gathered, their romantic beginning was the result of a traffic accident. Eva's car rear-ended his. Of course, it wasn't a normal car. It had to be a high-end luxury model that cost more than my annual salary. But instead of raising hell, the guy apparently fell in love at first sight. And just like that, he started chasing after her. No talk of compensation, no lawsuits, just hearts and flowers. I had every intention of stepping in, of setting boundaries, of digging into this guy's entire family tree. But Eva had been one step ahead. She kept things secret, tight-lipped, and refused to let me meet him. And now, barely a month later, they're already talking about marriage, like this was some sappy rom-com. You have to believe me, Eva pleaded, her voice trembling just enough to tug at my brotherly guilt. Once you meet him, you'll see he's a good person. You'll like him. I know you will. I rolled my eyes and let out a dry laugh. Why would I like him? I only like women, thanks. She muttered something under her breath. I narrowed my eyes. What was that? Her hands flew up in a panic. Nothing. Sure. Of course, I didn't agree to the marriage. Not a chance. For safety's sake, I told Eva she could bring her boyfriend over first so I could meet him face to face. The moment I said that, she lit up like a firework, practically skipping as she typed away, sending the good news to her mystery man. I could only let out a long, defeated sigh. Even when I got back to work, I couldn't focus at all. That's when my assistant, River Jiang, walked in with my schedule in hand. He paused the moment he saw my expression. Boss, why do you look like the world's ending? Your girlfriend run off or something? I shot him a glare. Worse. He blinked, stunned. Wait, don't tell me. You got someone pregnant. I couldn't take it anymore and chucked a thick document file at him. Later, River leaned over my desk, casually flipping through some notes as he offered. Listen, this really isn't something to lose sleep over. When you meet the guy, just act like the proper elder brother. Go full intimidating mode, ask about the dowry, whose surname the kids will take, all that traditional stuff. Trust me, that's the best way to handle those cocky rich playboys. I raised a brow. Why? He gave me a sly smile. Because guys like that, they're only into the thrill. They don't want long-term responsibility. They don't even control their own wealth. It's their parents who hold the leash. I nodded, impressed. Wow, you sound like you've got a lot of experience with this. River scratched the back of his head, suddenly sheepish. That's 'cause I am one of those guys. I stared at him, completely speechless. Just great. Turns out I had a secret rich heir hiding right under my nose. The whole meetup was Eva's idea. She picked one of the fanciest tea houses downtown, a high-end spot in the heart of the city. I gave her a look the second I saw the gold-trimmed doors. Wow, I muttered. Your taste is impressive. And expensive. Eva grinned, tugging my arm as we walked in. Oh, come on, don't be such a cheapskate. It's just tea. Now, about Eva's boyfriend. I'd only ever heard about him through her. Rich, but not too rich. Dyed hair. No idea what color. I just labeled him a blonde freak in my head. Bottom line? I wasn't expecting much. Be nice, okay? She whispered as we stepped closer to the private room. You have to be gentle. Don't scare him off. I raised an eyebrow. Do I look scary to you? I'm universally adored. People smiled just looking at me. She didn't roll her eyes, but I could tell she wanted to. Still, before we entered, she fussed over my collar, smoothing it down and rattling off a few final reminders, like I was heading into a job interview. Honestly, I muttered, at this rate, people are going to think I'm the one getting married. Just go with it, she hissed and led the way. 2 attendants opened the doors with perfect timing, and a soft wave of warm tea aroma drifted out. We walked in. The moment we rounded the decorative screen, I froze. Seated calmly at the table was a man. And not just any man. He was nothing like the disaster I had imagined. Far from it. In fact, he was breathtaking. A face so flawless it made my heart stutter. Pale gray-white hair, yet not a hint of old age. Just grace. Cool confidence. I'd spent years working in the entertainment industry, surrounded by gorgeous men, but not one of them could pull off that kind of hair color without looking ridiculous. But this man, he wore it like a crown. He wasn't even dressed formally, just a crisp white trench coat, but it was spotless, sharp. And the way he sat there, calmly sipping tea, like a lone white lotus in full bloom, he felt untouchable, like something sacred. And right then, my instincts, the same ones I trust with every first impression, whispered in my ear. This man is dangerous. I glanced at Eva beside me. She looked oddly out of place next to him. These two, they didn't look like they came from the same universe, let alone the same room. As we approached, the man stood smoothly and extended a hand. Asher Blake, he said, voice low and clear. I reached out and shook it. Julian Jiang. His lips curled faintly. Nice name. Complimenting me already, huh? Trying to play nice? Not gonna work. Whatever tests I had planned, still happening. I didn't react much to his charm, and thankfully, Eva got up soon after, murmuring something about giving us time to talk. She left us alone. Just me. And him. And now, things were about to get interesting. The tea room was spacious, its windows thrown wide open. Outside, real flowers, lush greenery, and tall trees painted a breathtaking view, utterly unique and undeniably peaceful. I took a moment to admire the scenery before getting down to business. Honestly, before I met you in person, Mr. Blake, I didn't have a very good impression of you. The man's slender, pale fingers paused mid-pour with the teapot. He flinched, just slightly, involuntarily, as if the words had struck somewhere sensitive. My apologies, I added. I was too blunt. His eyes were so gentle, almost unreal. I didn't dare to look straight into them. Did you really fall for Eva at first sight? I asked. Asher Blake passed me the cup of tea. I motioned for him to set it down, but he acted as though he didn't notice. So I had no choice but to take it directly from his hand. The moment our fingers brushed, I felt a subtle shift in his expression. The tea trembled slightly in the cup. Julian, he said quietly. I blinked in surprise. He smiled faintly. Is that too forward of me, calling you that? I quickly dropped my gaze. No, Call me whatever you'd like. He continued, pushing the boundary further. Eva told me you're actually a year older than I am. Should I just call you brother too, like she does? This man really knew how to inch forward shamelessly. Then, answering my earlier question, Asher said, Yes, Eva is wonderful. I was drawn to her from the very first moment I saw her. So, brother, would you be willing to give us your blessing? I'm not the kind to tear lovers apart, I replied honestly. But that doesn't mean I want my sister rushing into marriage either. He nodded, as if he'd expected that. What does your family do? I continued. How many people in your household? Where do you plan to settle after the wedding? What are your plans for the future? And if it ever comes to divorce, what would your stance be? Throughout the conversation, Asher remained calm and unhurried. He gently rotated his right wrist, a relaxed movement. My family's involved in pharmaceuticals, real estate, and maritime trade. I only have one uncle. As for where we live after the wedding, that's up to the bride. Wherever she likes, I'll go. When it came to the last question, he hesitated. For the first time, his eyes lingered on me. There won't be a divorce. In the Blake family, we believe in death before divorce. I finished the last sip of tea and quietly placed the cup back on the table. All right, I said. As I left the tea room, my mind was already elsewhere, distracted by all the thoughts swirling around. So I didn't notice. Behind me, the now empty teacup had somehow found its way into Asher Blake's hand. He gripped it tightly, and then unwillingly let it go. In a voice as soft and slow as falling dusk, he murmured, Something so hard to find. How could I ever let it go again? Are you sure you like him? I asked, watching Eva's expression closely. Eva raised her chin with absolute certainty. Of course I do. You won't regret marrying him? No regrets. I took a breath, then asked one last time, more serious than ever. Eva, I'm not joking. After that brief interaction with him earlier, I really don't think you two are a good match. Are you absolutely sure you want to marry him? Eva turned and looked me straight in the eyes. Julian, when you first fell in love, didn't you feel the impulse to marry that person right away? My mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. She leaned in and hugged me gently. I know you're just looking out for me, and I love you for that. But this is my choice. You can't protect me forever. At some point, you have to let me face things on my own. When our parents passed away in that accident, I was only 10. No relatives stepped forward. No helping hand reached out. So I worked part-time jobs while studying, scraping by and raising Eva by myself. Those early years were tough, but fate threw me a lifeline. I was scouted by a well-known fashion ambassador who told me I had the natural build and presence of a model. And just like that, I stepped into the world of entertainment. Not exactly a breakout star, but I wasn't forgotten either. I found my footing. Meanwhile, my old industry peer Zane, who started around the same time, had become a household name, an A-list celebrity. Still, I was content with where I stood. More importantly, I had enough stability to give Eva the life she deserved. But she was right. I couldn't keep sheltering her forever. That little girl who once clung to me, sobbing for Mom, had grown tall, had grown up, and now had someone she loved. I reached out, gently ruffling her hair, a warm smile rising to my lips. You've grown up. But life has a funny way of humbling you, because 1 month later, that sentence came back to slap me in the face. I gave Asher Blake a 1-month trial period. Originally, it was supposed to be 6 months, but Eva was relentless, crying, pouting, and throwing tantrums like her life depended on marrying him. The way she acted like she couldn't wait another day made my teeth itch with frustration. After all, it's hard to reason with someone who's already lost in love. As I reviewed the itinerary for the upcoming shoot, my assistant glanced at me and let out a surprised little hum. Julian, you've got this. Glowing look today. Is something exciting about to happen? I didn't bother hiding it anymore. Won't be long before I hand you some wedding candy. No way, really? So what is it? Are you getting married? Is it about your sister? I was about to spill the beans when one of the crew members shouted from the set, urging me to get into position. I gave my assistant a half smile and waved him off. I'll tell you the rest later. I never thought I'd run into Asher Blake again, especially not here. What I didn't expect even more was that he turned out to be the event organizer. One of the staff nudged me with a teasing grin. Julian, come on, you've been staring at Mr. Blake for a while now. Go say hi already. Imagine discovering that your future brother-in-law is actually the big boss behind the scenes. What kind of cosmic joke is that? I knew Asher had money, but I didn't know he was this wealthy. He stood at the center of the room, effortlessly commanding attention as people gathered around him. Some people are just born to be the lead. He didn't even need to say anything. Just standing there was enough to draw every pair of eyes. It wasn't just his good looks. It was that calm, unshakable aura about him. He had this refined grace, like he didn't need to try to outshine anyone, and still did. It was rare to see a man of his status dye his hair such a striking shade. It walked the line between youthful rebellion and adult sophistication, a perfect blend of both. Some people say true beauty is in the bones, not the skin. Asher had both. I felt his gaze before I even saw him move. He'd already noticed me, and now he was walking in my direction. A nearby guest, ever the curious one, asked with a smile, "Oh, do you two know each other?" "Yes," Asher answered. "No," I said at the exact same time. The awkward tension snapped through the air. Realizing how weird that must have sounded, I quickly forced a smile. Mr. Blake, good to see you. Excuse me, I should get backstage to prepare." Without giving him a chance to say more, I turned and left. The guest looked puzzled and turned to Asher. "Mr. Blake, what was that about?" But Asher only smiled faintly, something amused flickering in his eyes. He said we don't know each other, so I guess we don't. The crowd around him fell into polite silence, pretending not to hear the tension. That night, for the first time in my life, I nearly walked off stage the wrong way. Why? Because Asher was seated right in the center, front row. Front row. Every step I took, I could feel his gaze on me. Unmoving, sharp. There's something strange about the way Asher affects me. I can't put my finger on it, but it's like our frequencies clash. Or maybe it's the weight of the differences between us. Later backstage, River Jiang wouldn't stop pestering me. "Bro, what's going on with you tonight? That's your first mistake ever on stage." "Nothing. Probably just didn't sleep well," I muttered. He didn't buy it. He looked around, leaned closer, and whispered, "Hey, I heard you and Mr. Blake know each other?" I shoved him back lightly. "Where'd you hear that nonsense?" "Of course not. No way I'd know someone like him." The last thing I wanted was for Asher to think I was trying to ride his coattails. I had to cut that idea off completely. "Then explain why you were so distracted." River narrowed his eyes dramatically. "Julian, you're acting suspicious." "I was just thinking about a girl I met recently," I blurted, grasping at anything. "You know, with the Cheeksy Festival coming up, I was thinking how I should confess." He blinked. "Wait, that's what the candy was about? You've got a girlfriend now?" Seeing he bought it, I nodded vigorously. "Yup, that's right." Just then, footsteps echoed at the door. I turned and froze. Asher stood there. Our eyes met for the briefest second. He took a step back. "Sorry, wrong room," he said simply. "You can carry on." Then he turned and walked away without looking back. 1 month passed quickly. Strangely enough, I hadn't seen Asher Blake around the company at all during that time. Curiosity got the better of me. Quietly, and without raising suspicion, I started asking around about him. Turns out, he'd become a household name at a young age, taking over his family's business long before most people even figured out what they wanted in life. But despite his success, he kept an incredibly low profile, rarely showing up in public, let alone making headlines. Judging by his calm and elegant appearance, it was hard to believe he had been handling major responsibilities for years. As for his personal life, practically non-existent. No dating history, no scandals, no trace of a romantic partner, not even a whisper of a close female friend. He maintained strict boundaries with the opposite sex. In fact, I heard that back in the day, quite a few people had tried to curry favor with him, going as far as to send both women and men his way. It backfired spectacularly. Asher had been so offended that he blacklisted those people immediately. From then on, no one dared try that again. That gave me some peace of mind, to be honest. Once the date for the engagement banquet was set, everything started moving at lightning speed. But I never would have guessed what would happen next. What came afterward hit me completely out of nowhere, like a sudden downpour on a clear sky day, and I wasn't ready at all. The wedding venue was a mess. Tense, chaotic, buzzing with whispers. I squinted at the staff member in front of me. "What did you just say?" The poor man swallowed hard. "The bride, she ran away." "What?" He nodded anxiously, his face pale. "We found only the engagement dress in the dressing room. Miss Eva left a note saying she had something urgent to handle and that the engagement is off." My knees buckled slightly from the shock. Someone caught me from behind just in time. A calm, low male voice sounded beside me, steady like steel. "Search the nearby area. Check again." "Yes, sir." I quickly moved aside, too ashamed to even look Asher Blake in the eyes. Eva, you're seriously in trouble this time. What were you thinking? I rubbed my temple and silently prayed. Maybe if I kneel fast enough, the Blake family might go easy on us. Asher turned to me, his voice still composed, but I could feel the undercurrent. I've got things to take care of. Wait for me in the dressing room. Without waiting for a response, he strode away. Back in the dressing room, I called Eva over and over. No answer. You brat. You absolute brat. By the time the sun began to set, my phone finally rang. Her name flashed across the screen. I picked up immediately. Where the hell are you? What do you think you're doing vanishing on your engagement day? I could hear a strange accent in the background. She was clearly out of the country. Eva's tone was oddly casual. Huh? He still hasn't figured it out? What are you talking about? I asked, stunned. Oh, nothing, she said quickly. Look, I'm really counting on you, Julian. Please explain things to them for me. Okay? Gotta go. My battery's about to die. Bye! Eva, don't you dare hang up. Eva! Too late. She ended the call. I called back immediately, but she wasn't answering anymore. That's it. I had to find her and get the truth, face to face. I turned to storm out, but the door opened before I could reach it. Asher walked in, quietly closing the door behind him. His gaze was calm, cool as always. I told you to wait here. Where were you planning to go? I swallowed. I need to go abroad, just for a bit. I was so focused on chasing down Eva that I didn't notice the way his eyes darkened. If you leave now, he said slowly, what if you never come back? I blinked. That's not going to happen. No? His eyes flicked down, then back up, locking onto mine. But you've done it before. What? That made no sense. I'd never met this man before. Eva introduced him to me. Had I? I frowned, confused. I think. You've got the wrong person. The moment those words left my mouth, Asher's expression turned ice cold. He moved toward me, flexing his wrist with a controlled tension that sent a chill down my spine. I found myself backed up against the floor-to-ceiling window, with nowhere to run. Julian Jiang, he gritted out. I don't care if you were ashes in the wind, I'd still recognize you. Wait, what? How did we get here? I tried pushing him back, but he didn't budge an inch. Despite his delicate, refined look, the man was all lean muscle and unshakable force. Fine. If pushing didn't work, I'd try reasoning. Asher, let's just calm down, okay? I think we should. Before I could finish, his face closed in. He leaned down. I froze. My breath caught somewhere in my throat. My whole body stiffened. He had lost it. He kissed me like a man possessed, desperate, unrelenting, like a starving wolf claiming its prey. I was too stunned to react at first. Then anger flared in my chest, my eyes stinging. I raised my hand to punch him, but he caught my wrist and pinned it above my head, completely overpowering me. What scared me most wasn't that I couldn't fight back. It was that, deep down, I didn't really want to. The shame hit me hard. My secret, the one I'd buried for years, was unraveling right before my eyes. My preferences were something I'd never dared admit, especially not in this industry. I was terrified of how people would look at me, terrified of the burden it might place on Eva. But Asher Blake didn't give me a choice. He broke through my shell, piece by piece, like he had always known how to get in. When it was over, he leaned in close, his forehead resting against mine, his breath still uneven. That night, everything between us changed. Forever. I was being held captive by Asher Blake. Well, if we're being technical, it was more like being pampered in luxurious confinement. I couldn't leave his house, but within these walls I had everything I needed. The finest food, clothes, space. The staff treated me with the utmost respect, as if this situation were completely ordinary. Too ordinary. The butler bowed politely. Mr. Jiang, our young master said whatever you need. Just say the word. I rubbed my temples. I have a job, you know. I've already been missing for 2 days. People must be losing their minds looking for me, probably filing a police report by now. I narrowed my eyes at him. Also, what Asher's doing? It's illegal. This is unlawful detainment. From somewhere down the hallway came his voice, calm and maddeningly logical. Didn't you say that as long as I forgave your sister for running away, you'd do anything? The butler, sensing his time here was over, gave a nod and slipped out quietly. My room was on the top floor, 7 stories up. That alone was enough to kill any ideas I had of jumping out the window and running for it. I said I'd compensate you, sure. Money, work, groveling if I had to. But I never said anything about this. This man was unreal. Absolutely shameless. Asher must have just come from a meeting. He was still dressed in a sharp, dark business suit, the kind that screamed power and control. His face carried the kind of cool indifference that warned people to stay far away. He looked at me, expression unreadable. I don't want a servant or your money. I want you. Then, as if that weren't maddening enough, he added, and do I look like someone who needs money? Without missing a beat, I snapped, so what then? You're short on love? His brows lifted ever so slightly, amusement dancing in his eyes. He didn't deny it, which pretty much was a confirmation. I clenched my jaw. Asher Blake, I completely misjudged you. He listened, perfectly composed, and while I was still mid-rant, he casually reached behind and turned the door lock with a soft click. Trapped. Again. He leaned against the door and asked softly, so what was your first impression of me? I could give a list of words, none of them flattering. Definitely didn't think he was a beast in designer clothing. I tried reasoning. Can we sit down and talk like rational adults? No, he said, shaking his head. Not interested. God, he was impossible. He strolled to the couch and patted the space beside him. Sit. As if I'd obey him like a trained puppy. I crossed my arms and shook my head. Not happening. He chuckled darkly. You know, if you really want your freedom, that can be arranged. I perked up. I'm listening. He leaned back lazily on the couch. Move in. Live here by choice. I laughed out loud, almost choking on the absurdity. And how's that different from this? There's a huge difference, he said smoothly. One is coercion, the other is consent. This man was dangerous. He tilted his head, catching my expression. Did you just insult me? I gave a dry laugh. Wouldn't dare. Oh? His gaze darkened, playfully threatening. You dared to bite me, but not insult me? Oh, great. Now he was bringing that night up again. I was seriously starting to suspect he was doing this on purpose. Wait, a very serious, very disturbing question suddenly crossed my mind. I stared at him. You like women, or men? That finally wiped the smug look off his face. He stiffened, sitting up straighter. His silence told me everything. My suspicion exploded into full-on rage. Asher Blake! Did you fake this marriage? Huh? My voice cracked with fury. Tell me the truth. Were you trying to scam Eva into marrying you while hiding the fact that you're into men? Because if she hadn't run, if she had actually married him, and then found out later, she would have been trapped in the cruelest lie. Asher's face tensed. No, I didn't deceive Eva. Fine. Then answer the damn question. He hesitated, then quietly said, actually. He raised 4 fingers, serious as a priest in confession. I'm bisexual, but I swear I've never dated anyone, man or woman. I'm clean. There was something about the way he said clean that made me stop cold. The weight in his voice, like he meant more than just being untouched. He wasn't just talking about romance or lust, he was talking about his heart. And somehow I found that harder to handle than anything else. In the end, after much back-and-forth negotiation, I reluctantly agreed to move in, on the condition that he wouldn't restrict my freedom to come and go. But the moment I stepped out of the Blake family estate, I packed up everything and moved out of my old place without a second thought. Found a new apartment. Quiet. Untraceable. As for that business card Asher Blake gave me, tossed it the same night, straight into the trash. What a joke. I'm a fully grown man, 6 feet tall, bold as hell, afraid of nothing. You think I'd fold that easily? Eva, my only weakness, had already fled the country. With her out of reach, there was no more leverage he could hold over me. I didn't even bother showing up to the office. Just called River Jiang over video to let him know I was alive. But the moment his face appeared on screen, he glared at me like I'd just abandoned a wife and child. Julian, you lied to me. Hey, watch your tone. What exactly did I lie about? Don't play dumb. What, did your wedding candy come straight from a sugarcane field? You've been off the grid for days, probably holed up with your sweetheart, all lovey-dovey, while we've been waiting here like fools. My ears instantly burned at that. Sweetheart? Lovey-dovey? I wish. All I could think about was Asher's voice, low and teasing, half threatening, half coaxing, whispering things that made my ears burn and my brain short-circuit. Damn bastard, why didn't I stab him when I had the chance? Me, Julian Jiang, sharp-tongued and iron-willed, had never lost to anyone in my life. And yet Asher Blake had single-handedly become my biggest nemesis. And maybe something else I refused to name. To stop River from blowing this thing out of proportion, I told him the truth, or at least a version of it. No romance. Got dumped. I've been at home nursing a broken heart. I paused, then added, "Also, I'm taking some time off. Gonna head overseas for a bit. Clear my head, just keep it quiet, okay? Don't go blabbing." Clear my head was just an excuse. What I really planned to do was find Eva, and maybe, just maybe, prevent Asher from losing it if he found out I bailed on our deal. The last thing I needed was him doing something extreme. I shook my head, trying to chase away the terrifying images flickering in my mind. When River Jiang heard I'd been dumped, he insisted, no, demanded that we go out for drinks. With a dramatic thump to his chest, he declared, "Heartbreak's nothing a good drink can't fix. I promise you, Julian, by the time we leave, you'll be smiling again." I hesitated. Just a moment. But he meant well. So I agreed, until I walked into the place and saw what was waiting for me. I raised an eyebrow and gave him a tight-lipped smile. "Are you messing with me right now?" That's when I fully accepted that River Jiang really was the stereotypical rich kid. He was dressed in a blinding red hoodie, some flashy chains swinging from his neck, his hair slicked back like a wannabe K-pop star in an underworld drama. He pointed proudly at the row of women lined up across the booth. "Julian, these are the finest ladies I could gather from my circle, all pros in the art of love, guaranteed to have you grinning ear to ear in no time." I shoved him aside, rolling my eyes so hard they nearly left orbit. "You think I'm here to be pimped out?" I narrowed my eyes. "River, do you want me to dock your paycheck?" That shut him up real fast. Rich as his family might be, the money wasn't exactly in his hands. After college, his mom had kicked him out and made him fend for himself. Sure, she gave him a car and an apartment, but day-to-day expenses? All on him. He acted like a fearless trust fund brat, but the man once spent 30 minutes justifying a late-night snack reimbursement. In the end, River sulked and waved the women off. The plush booth suddenly felt way too big and way too quiet. I poured us both a drink, slid one his way, and clinked glasses. "Thanks. I get the gesture," I said, and meant it. He looked thoughtful for about 3 seconds. Then his eyes gleamed with curiosity, and he leaned in close, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Julian, if you're not into women, is it maybe guys?" The sip of liquor I'd just taken lodged itself halfway down my throat. I coughed so hard I teared up, my whole face burning. He panicked and patted my back, remorseful. Hey, don't freak out. It's just a guess, all right? And come on, it's not like being gay is rare these days. In your line of work? I've seen plenty." Just then, my phone lit up where it sat on the table, screen glowing with a new message. I waved him off to fetch me a glass of warm water, using the moment to check the sender. It was from an unknown number. "Where are you?" An unknown number. I was just about to close the screen and mark it as spam when another message popped in. "Saw your silence. Do you want me to ask you in person? Because honestly, I'd be happy to." That tone. That smug, patient, predatory tone. Who else could it be but Asher Blake? My instincts kicked in, and I jerked my head up. The bar was large, split across 2 levels. The upper floor reserved for VIPs, with its own polished railing and mood lighting. Across from me, leaning on the second-floor balcony, stood a group of people that looked like they stepped straight off a luxury magazine cover. Elegant. Untouchable. Rich enough to make the air around them feel exclusive. Among them stood one man in particular. Dark shirt. Silvery white hair that somehow looked effortless, not dyed. Leaned forward slightly, both hands resting on the railing, head tilted low. He had that kind of face you couldn't quite label. Beautiful and dangerous in the same breath. A little too still. A little too focused. The word hit me out of nowhere. Yandere. Yeah, that was it. Dangerous obsession with a pretty face. And then, his eyes met mine. We locked gazes in midair, like 2 chess players across the board. He'd seen me from the moment I walked in, and he hadn't stopped watching since. The man curved his lips into a cold, aristocratic smirk, just enough to say I know. Another text buzzed through. "Are you coming up, or should I come down?" Unbelievable. What did he think I was? A puppy who'd come running just because he crooked a finger? So I turned my gaze away. Sat back down. Cool. Collected. I could feel the heat of his stare from across the room, but I ignored it. River, thankfully, didn't start any more trouble. We chatted a bit, mostly him pretending not to be nosy, and then I glanced at the time. "Let's call it a night." I stood quickly, more than ready to escape. "So early? You suddenly into wellness routines, Julian?" he teased. I waved it off, already standing. But before I could make it 2 steps, someone blocked my way. I didn't need to look up. I already knew. I tried to sidestep, but a hand caught my wrist. Firm, cool, possessive. Julian Jiang, Asher said softly. Lying to me. Was that fun for you? Why did that line make me feel like some scumbag who'd slept with someone and ghosted the next morning? River stood frozen, eyes darting between me and Asher. Wait, are you two? Before he could finish, someone else descended the stairs behind Asher. It was Zane, of all people. He clapped a hand on River's shoulder and whispered something low in his ear. River blinked, nodded like he understood the secret code, and let Zane pull him away. Leaving me. Alone. With Asher. Perfect. I didn't get away. Again. I was cornered. Literally. Asher Blake had me trapped against the bathroom wall. What, planning to keep me locked up forever? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't even blink. Wouldn't be the worst idea. His tone was calm. Too calm. Like he wasn't saying something outrageous, like it was just a casual observation. I'd had enough. I shoved at his chest and made to leave. I'm going home. His arm snaked around my waist before I could take a step. Julian. His voice was low, dangerous. He pulled me back, firm and unrelenting. Footsteps echoed closer. Someone was approaching. Multiple voices, loud and drunk, laughter getting nearer. But Asher didn't so much as flinch. Asher, I hissed, panicking. People are coming. Let them. His eyes didn't move. They were locked on my mouth like it was the only thing in the world worth looking at. Asher Blake, let go of me or I swear I'll make you regret it. Oh, he murmured, head tilting slightly. I'd love to see what that looks like. His gaze dropped lower, slowly, deliberately. Will it involve your mouth or something else? You sick bastard. I tried to knee him, hard, but he was faster. He caught the movement before it landed and pinned me back with infuriating ease. Kiss me, he said. The demand wasn't subtle. His eyes, normally cold, burned with open, unfiltered desire. No, I snapped. The footsteps were right outside now, slurred voices and laughter spilling in. The bathroom door swung open. A bunch of drunk guys stumbled inside. Asher didn't let go. If anything, his arm around my waist tightened. Julian, he said quietly, urgently. I don't want to force you, but if you walk away now, what am I supposed to do? The look in his eyes didn't match the actions. He wasn't wild or unhinged, but something about this man was fundamentally off. I didn't have time to psychoanalyze him, though. Damn it. I cursed under my breath, heart pounding like a war drum, then yanked him closer, grabbed the back of his head, angled his face, and kissed him. Just a quick one. Firm. A little clumsy, but it shut him up, and it bought us time. He exhaled sharply and pulled me into one of the stalls. The door slammed shut behind us. We stood there, pressed together, breath shallow. His arms wrapped around me tightly, but not crushing. Controlled. Barely. Outside, the bar's noise roared on, drunken laughter, casual chaos. In the relative quiet, Asher leaned down, lips brushing my ear. So, he whispered, I've made my choice. Wherever you go, I'm coming with you. Even if it kills me. He's insane. It was official. Asher Blake is completely, undeniably, unhinged. My face was still burning. I couldn't even yell. All I could do was mutter under my breath. You need therapy. If I could rewind time a month, just one damn month, I swear to God, I would never have gotten involved with this man. The second time I was sent to the Blake estate, I didn't feel as awkward as the first. This time, I had a goal. I needed to figure out one thing. What exactly does Asher Blake want from me? Don't tell me it's love at first sight. That kind of line might work on kids, not on me. But then again, what do I even have that's worth this kind of obsession? Still, Asher clearly didn't have time for me right now. Apparently, the Blakes were entertaining a guest. The butler mentioned it was Asher's only uncle. He didn't look that much older, maybe 5 or 6 years tops. But there was something off about his stride. He leaned heavily on a cane. It wasn't until I looked more closely that I realized he was an amputee. His left leg had been replaced with a prosthetic. The men in the Blake family, not a single one of them is average looking. Take Asher, for example. He's handsome, sure, but there's something sharp hidden under that charm. Something that makes you feel like he could end your life with a smile. His uncle, though, he was a different kind of presence. Refined. Elegant. The kind of quiet confidence born from generations of wealth and breeding. Mr. Jiang, the man greeted. I straightened up and nodded politely. Mr. Blake. Asher turned to me and said, Go upstairs for a while. I didn't want to listen, believe me. But the way those two looked at each other, they clearly needed to talk. And well, I wasn't in a position to argue. So I went. I'd barely walked out of earshot when I heard a voice behind me, laced with amusement. So it's him, huh? No wonder you've never been able to let it go. The rest of the sentence faded, too quiet to catch. But the meaning was clear. Asher and I, we've met before. Just then, my phone lit up with a video call. Perfect timing. Eva. She was sprawled across a lounge chair somewhere sunny, sunglasses perched on her head, the ocean in the background. Apparently, she'd just come back from some ridiculous around-the-world trip and was already bragging about all the amazing new friends she'd made. But I saw through her in 2 seconds. "You're dating someone new, aren't you?" I said flatly, squinting at her through the screen. She froze, then fumbled for the end call button. "If you hang up right now," I said coldly, "don't bother calling me your brother again. Ever." That did it. She paused, then slowly lowered her hand, pulling the phone closer, with a guilty look. She shifted into full prepared-to-be-scolded mode, just like when we were kids. I rubbed my temples. There were too many questions spinning in my head. I didn't even know where to begin. Finally, I met her gaze through the screen and asked, "You and Asher never really planned on getting married, did you?" Eva blinked in surprise. Then, after a pause, she nodded. I let out a long breath. "Then tell me, what does he want? Why the charade? Why get you wrapped up in this mess?" Being played like a pawn in someone else's game, it stung. She looked at me, then away, then back again. Her expression flickered, guilt, hesitation, something else I couldn't name, and that's when a ridiculous thought struck me. "Wait, don't tell me. You're saying this was all because of me?" She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Her silence said enough. "No, that's impossible." I shook my head. "I've never even met him. Why the hell would he go this far for me?" Eva glanced down, then murmured, "You have. That year, remember? You saved a boy. That boy was him." My heart missed a beat. Right, face blindness. I've had it since I was a kid. Unless I make a conscious effort, people's faces blur together, even the important ones. I stared at the wall, phone still in hand. The pieces didn't fit. Not yet. But something inside me had started to shift. I didn't even notice Asher come in. "What are you thinking about?" His voice pulled me from my thoughts. I turned to Asher, still dazed, my eyes landing on his wrist. The scar. Suddenly, memories I hadn't thought about in years surged forward. I must have been 15. I had taken Eva on a short trip to an old mountain town, quiet, scenic, peaceful. But just our luck, it started pouring. Days of heavy rain led to a landslide. The whole side of the mountain came crashing down. Half of the inn we were staying in was swallowed by mud and debris. I managed to get Eva out first, found a safe spot for her, and was about to leave with her when I heard something. Someone calling for help. Even with the rain pouring and thunder rumbling, I heard it. Faint but desperate. The back of the mountain could have collapsed again at any moment. It was dangerous. But I couldn't just leave. I told Eva to stay put and ran toward the voice. There was a family, 4 people, trapped under a collapsed roof. An older boy, probably a few years older than me, was already on his knees, digging frantically with his bare hands, his feet soaked in blood. He wouldn't stop. I didn't think. I just dropped down and started moving debris with him. Rain blinded me. Mud caked my arms, and by the time my fingers were raw and bleeding, we found someone. A boy. Maybe my age. He'd been crushed near a corner but managed to stay alive. His hand was badly injured, but otherwise he was unconscious and breathing. The rest weren't so lucky. Of the 4, only the boy survived. When the rescue team arrived, I handed him off. Before they took him, I remember wrapping his bleeding wrist with my handkerchief. It was all I could do at the time. After that, everything blurred. I didn't even catch their names. I never expected that boy to be Asher Blake. So much time has passed. So much has happened. I'd buried those memories somewhere deep under everything else life had thrown at me. But now, it all made sense. Asher listened to my story quietly, his expression unreadable. "So you finally remembered?" he asked softly. I nodded. "No wonder," I murmured, eyes drifting back to his wrist. "You always twist your right hand like that. It's a habit from the injury, isn't it?" He pressed his hand over the old scar. "Yeah." I studied him, frowning. "But if this was all just about repaying a debt, you really didn't have to go to such lengths. This whole fake engagement dragging Eva into it." He interrupted me, voice calm but sharp. "Is that the only thing you remember?" "What? That incident? Is that all you remember?" I blinked, caught off guard. He watched me for a second. Then his expression dimmed. Something in him closed off. "Forget it," he said quietly, pulling back. And just like that, the warmth in the room disappeared. But his question lingered in the air. What else had I forgotten? The next morning, when I finally made it downstairs, Asher was already gone, off to the company. Of course he was. He was avoiding me. On purpose. And just like that, the urge to pack my bags and disappear started bubbling up again. But before I could act on it, an unexpected visitor arrived. Asher's uncle. He introduced himself before I could ask. "You can just call me Richard Blake." "Julian Jiang," I replied politely. He gave me a warm smile. "I know, because you're the one who saved my life." My mind jolted. Wait, him? That boy on his knees in the rubble all those years ago, digging like his life depended on it, that was Richard? The memory hit me with full force. So that's why he walks with a limp now. Richard didn't go into the painful details of his injuries. He only gave a passing explanation. "That year, I owed you everything. I wanted to thank you properly, I really did, but we just lost family in the disaster. The company was under pressure, vultures circling from outside. It was chaos. By the time I came back to my senses, you were gone. I searched, but you'd vanished without a trace." He lowered his head slightly. "I'm truly sorry, and thank you for what you did that day." He said it with such sincerity that I could only smile faintly in return. "You don't need to thank me. It was just something anyone would have done. Right place, right time." But Richard had a different reason for showing up today. "I also came to talk to you about Asher." His voice softened. "He's been looking for you for 10 years, since he was 15. I sat in stunned silence. 10 years? Richard nodded. "Do you remember your final year of high school? He was invited to your school to give a speech, back when he was considered a model student. A vague image came to mind. A boy on stage, wearing a mask over his face because he had a cold. The murmur of excited girls around me. I'd been too stressed about college entrance exams to care about what he looked like. I just kept my head down and focused on the speech." Richard went on, "When you entered university, on your very first day, he pretended to be a senior. He carried your bags, walked you around campus." That memory was clearer. I'd been lost, overwhelmed, and incredibly grateful to the kind senior who showed me around. But after an hour of going in circles, I started thinking he was messing with me on purpose. I swore to myself that if I ever saw him again, I'd give him a piece of my mind. But I never did. Richard continued, unhurried. "During your school's Cheeksy Festival ball, he came, dressed as a girl." I snapped my head up, heart pounding. "What?" Richard chuckled softly. "Yeah, Asher in a princess dress. Ridiculous, really. But he just wanted one dance with you." My breath caught. That night, it was a masquerade ball. Everyone wore full-face masks. A tall girl had stopped me on the dance floor. She wore a silver mask, covered her entire face, and spoke in a weird, almost robotic voice like she was nervous. "Can I have this dance?" she'd asked. I didn't think much of it and said yes. We danced one song. Then at the end, when the lights dimmed for that brief romantic mystery segment, I felt a soft, cold kiss on my cheek. "I like you," and then gone. By the time the lights came back on, she'd vanished into the crowd. That memory had always lingered in the back of my mind. Strange, sweet, unfinished. But to find out that it was him, Asher Blake, I couldn't reconcile the two images. The boy too shy to say "I like you" unless hidden behind a mask and a dress, and the powerful, cold executive he was today. It just didn't add up. Richard stood, smoothing his jacket, then paused. "Oh, curious why he dyed his hair." I blinked. "I don't know either," Richard said, a little amused. "But something tells me it had to do with you. You can ask him yourself." And with that, he left, leaving me with a dozen new questions and one undeniable truth. Asher Blake had been orbiting around my life for far longer than I'd ever realized. Richard Blake's words shattered everything I thought I knew about Asher. It was absurd, almost laughably so, and yet I couldn't shake one lingering question. Why me? Why would someone like him go to such ridiculous lengths? For me? I needed answers, real ones. So I went to Eva. She didn't try to hide anything, laid it all out without skipping a beat. Yes, the car accident had been real. No, the so-called love at first sight between her and Asher had been a lie. The truth? Asher had known right away that she was my sister. He didn't tell her much, only asked her to play a role, to help him stage this whole act. All for what? Just to create a reason to stay close to me. To stake a claim with a title that would tether me in place. And now I wanted nothing more than to grab Asher Blake and shake the truth out of him myself. But of course, he was out of town on a business trip. Gone. For the first time ever, I waited quietly, didn't run. Instead, I busied myself streaming live online, filling the silence with something, anything. "Did you move, Mr. Jiang? Your background looks different." "Yeah, I moved." You seem distracted. Are you in love? If only they knew. If only they knew that I, a man in his 20s, had never even been in a real relationship. A romance virgin, if you want to call it that. Motherless, clueless, heart untouched. And still, I waited. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, still no reply from Asher. Nothing on WeChat. Just silence. That awful, buzzing, heavy silence. My gut told me something was wrong. So I asked the house steward. He hesitated. His eyes darted, his voice tight. Young master said, "Not to tell you." That was all I needed. My voice dropped cold. "So you're not going to talk, huh?" I stepped back. "Fine. Then I'm done, too. I'm leaving. I'm not staying here anymore." The steward's face crumpled. He knew he couldn't stop me. He sighed and caved. "Young master's in trouble," he confessed, voice low and trembling. "There was a landslide at the hotel he was staying at. The odds aren't good." My heart stopped. He added quickly, "Young Master Richard has already gone to find him, but he told me not to say anything to you unless—" He trailed off and slowly handed me something. A contract. A transfer of ownership. Asher's entire estate. His assets. His shares. All signed over to me. The steward's voice was heavy with grief as he repeated Asher's final instructions. "If I don't make it back, give this to Julian." I stood there, frozen. The paper trembled in my hand, but it wasn't the paper. It was me. 10 years. You searched for someone for 10 whole years. Asher Blake. When did this start for you? And how didn't I know? Wasn't it hard? Wasn't it exhausting? Wasn't it lonely? On the flight to Clearwater Town, I closed my eyes, and instantly the memory came rushing back. That day. That moment. When I pulled Asher Blake out of the water with my bare hands. And now I'm starting to seriously wonder, does this man attract disaster or something? By the time I arrived at the disaster zone, the damage was far worse than I'd expected. The ground had caved in, buildings had collapsed, cries of pain and panic filled the air. I walked through the rubble, one shattered block at a time, searching for him. But there was nothing. Every time a stretcher passed by carrying another body, I stopped, just to make sure. And somewhere along the way, I realized my fear wasn't just concern for someone I kinda knew. It had gone far beyond that. Asher Blake, you better not die on me. I still have so many questions. You're not allowed to just disappear now. As dusk fell, the authorities began clearing everyone out. Only the search and rescue teams were allowed to stay. Still, I stayed, yelling into the broken night. "Asher, can you hear me? Say something, anything." The skies grumbled above me. Thunder cracked in the distance. Rain was coming, and fast. My voice was swallowed up by the growing storm. But I kept shouting, again and again, and then... "Looking for me?" A familiar voice spoke behind me. I froze and turned around. And there he was, standing on top of the rubble, breathing hard but very much alive. His face was streaked with dirt, but those dark eyes still shone, and there was that small, teasing smile. "Julian," he said, calling me by name, "you still won't admit it?" My breath caught. "Admit what?" He looked at me with a calm, unwavering gaze. "That you like me, that I found a place in your heart." I didn't think. I just ran to him and threw my arms around him. He stiffened in surprise. "Why are you crying?" he asked softly. I quickly wiped at my face, pretending like nothing had happened. Nothing. Just got dust in my eyes. "Liar," he chuckled. Then, without another word, he took my hand. And together, we walked out of the ruins. Asher Blake wasn't injured. When the disaster struck, he had luckily been out of town, handling a business negotiation. His phone, however, had been lost during the chaos. Before the rescue team even arrived, he'd already thrown himself into the disaster relief efforts. That was just like him, always jumping headfirst into danger without a second thought. After a full checkup at the hospital, and with the storm finally past, the skies began to clear, making rescue operations a bit easier. A few days later, we returned to Jingzhou. That was when I finally pulled out the will, the one I'd been holding on to since before the quake, and confronted him with it. "What's the meaning of this?" I demanded, my voice sharper than intended. He looked at me calmly and said, "Exactly what you think it means." I stared at him. "Asher Blake, I know you're rich, but this is ridiculous. Who writes a will like this?" He just shrugged, utterly unfazed. "It's fine. I'm good at making money." I was speechless. What kind of man casually rewrites his will just to leave everything to someone he hadn't even confessed to properly? Still, there was something else bothering me, something I hadn't let go of. I glanced at his hair, Something was off about it, and I'd noticed it days ago. But no matter how many times I asked about it, this man, who usually gave in to everything I said without complaint, suddenly refused to explain anything about it. Not even a single word. And that silence only made me more curious, more suspicious. What was he hiding? And why, after everything, did it feel like I was the one falling deeper into something I couldn't control? Ever since that live stream where Asher Blake suddenly appeared on camera and said some wildly inappropriate things, news of me finally having a boyfriend spread like wildfire across our entire circle. Zane even messaged me. Congrats, congrats! Our fierce Julian finally has a man. I covered my face and pretended I didn't see it. Life is unpredictable. Truly, utterly unpredictable. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. Asher proposed to me. Yeah, a real proposal. I stared at the ring, heart racing, and asked him seriously, even if people judge us, even if the world looks at us differently, you still want to marry me? Without a word, he slid the ring onto my finger. Julian Jiang, he said, after all these years searching for you, do you really think I care what anyone else thinks? Then he smirked. Be good, Mrs. Blake. I glared at him. Who said I'm the one on the bottom? Asher raised an eyebrow. Oh, not convinced? He leaned in. Perfect. Let's test that tonight. Crap. Can I take those words back? Asher Blake's side story. The day I lost my parents, I remember waking up in pain and seeing a bloodied handkerchief wrapped around my wrist. Embroidered on it were two small words, Julian Jiang. My uncle told me a boy saved me, pulled me out of the wreckage with his bare hands. But I never got a good look at his face. I couldn't remember anything clearly. After losing my parents, my entire family turned on me. To survive, I had to push aside the urge to search for him. I focused on business, aligning with my uncle to stabilize the family name. But when I turned 18, I finally found a lead. By then, I was already attending university early due to my grades. I arranged a speech at his school claiming it was just an academic visit. I had a cold that day, so I wore a mask. Before arriving, I memorized his face from an old photo, so when I scanned the crowd, I spotted him instantly. Nobody knew how nervous I was. I stumbled over several words during the speech. But I didn't know how to approach him. I couldn't just walk up and say, Hey, I've been obsessed with finding you for years. So I waited. By the time he entered university, I had already graduated and started managing my company. One day, I took a day off, my first in years, just to go see him. I lied. I said I was an upperclassman visiting. That was the closest I'd ever been to him. For a brief second, I wanted to tell him the truth. But I was unfamiliar with the campus. He misunderstood, thought I was someone else. The courage I'd gathered dissolved on the spot. I couldn't ruin our first meeting like that. The third time I tried to get close was also the first time I truly felt fear. I saw him confessing to a girl, holding her hand, hugging her, whispering sweet nothings. Just before they kissed, I ran. It was the most humiliating moment of my life. That night, I realized something awful. I'm a man, and he clearly likes women. He'd be disgusted if he ever found out how I felt. The next few days, I spiraled, tormented myself with guilt, jealousy, shame, until I did something desperate. I disguised myself as a girl, just to get close to him again. I mimicked what I saw that day, hand-holding, hugs, and in the dark, I kissed him. I like you, I whispered. After that, I vanished from his world. Uncle needed surgery. I threw myself into work, traveling across the country. I avoided all news of him, hoping time would make it easier. I was naive. I thought, if I could remember him for 10 years, surely I could forget him in 10 more. But I couldn't. I missed him more with each passing year. I started getting gray hairs. A lot of them. The day I visited my uncle again, he stared at me, speechless. You didn't have to go this far, he said. I smiled bitterly. I tried, I really did, but I can't forget him. I remembered everything about him, every line of his face. To hide the gray, I started dyeing my hair. Bright colors, bold styles, anything to distract from the ache inside. When I finally returned to Jingzhou, I heard his name again. Julian Jiang. Out of nowhere, without warning. His sister explained everything. He hadn't dated anyone. That confession I saw years ago, just a rehearsal for a play. It had all been a misunderstanding. That's when something dark inside me surfaced. I wanted to keep him, trap him beside me. Doctors called it a psychological disorder. A chronic obsession. No cure. But the day I saw him again, all of that melted away. Because Julian Jiang, he was both the cause and the cure.